We've got problems trying to throw away mom's stuff. We need help. All right, we're going to talk about it today. Hi there, I'm Angela Brown, and this is Ask a House Cleaner. This is a show where you get to ask a house cleaning question, and I get to help you find an answer. Now, today's show is brought to us by housecleaning360.com. And if you are in the process of helping an elderly parent move in with you, and you kind of need to pare down their stuff, this might be a great place to go to get a third party that is not involved in your emotional attachments of your stuff. There are house cleaners and professional organizers that you will find on housecleaning360.com. And if you are a business owner and you're not listed, run on over there and list your business so that house cleaners and homeowners can find you. housecleaning360.com. All right, on to today's show. There's a homeowner that wrote into the show, and I want to read you what she said because I think a lot of us can relate. She said, "We've been in the process for about 3 months of trying to get my elderly mother to pare down so she can move in with me. She started on the path of cognition loss. She's always had a trouble making decisions, and she hates throwing perfectly good things away. Today, it took us over an hour to go through her bedding. I told her we're only going to take 2 sets at most, and it was like pulling teeth from the decisions to the forgetfulness to repeating my answers. She knows she has a lot of stuff, but then she has trouble making a decision, and she gets really upset if I try to push her to get rid of something." Okay, that's a really tough, sensitive subject. And I want to first pay honor to the fact that your mother is fighting for her independence. She knows she has cognition loss. And for those that are losing their ability to reason, the thing that they want to do is hold on to whatever they had in the past. That includes their independence, that includes their stuff. So they know they need to come live with you. Tough decision, but they're leaving behind an entire world. And it's not just the world of their things, but it's the world of even their memories and their ability to reason and their ability to make decisions. So this is kind of a double, triple, quadruple whammy where their whole life is about to change. And so hanging on to those things, stuff, bedding, stuff that should not be, emotionally charged items, holding on to those things is really frustrating because if they let go, that means they're giving permission to let go of everything, okay? So I just want to pay attention and pay honor to the fact that your mother is going through the most difficult thing probably of her entire life. And so knowing that, we have to step aside for just a second and remove ourselves from the situation. Because the first thing we want to do is get really frustrated and say, I'm on a deadline. You're going to move in with me in a couple of days. We're taking 2 sets. Here's how it's going to go, and we are in control. Yeah, you are in control and you will still be in control. But the control has to be diplomatic and it has to be worked in a very organic way. All right, now that said, I want to throw another monkey wrench at you. The next monkey wrench is people that grow up in homes where there's storage of lots of stuff. It could be hoarding tendencies, whatever it is. People that grow up in these homes have a tendency to do the same. So for example, if I come to you and I say, hey, mom's going to move in with you, let's get rid of all of her bedding. What happens, and I ask you as if I'm the third party, I'm the house cleaner, I'm the professional organizer that came in. If I ask you and you're the daughter, can I get rid of this blanket? The first thing that's going to happen is now you have emotional attachments because you remember this blanket when you and your mother were curled up next to the fireplace and she was reading you a story, right? So what happens then is even though it's something as simple as a blanket or, some bedding, and you don't think it's emotionally charged, when it comes time to get rid of that, whether it's the parent or the child, a lot of times those emotional attachments are there. So this is where it really helps to have a third party come in, or if you are the child and you have to make these tough decisions, my suggestion is to make them once removed. And so what we do is this: don't be in the room with the stuff, because when you start seeing the stuff, that's where the attachments and the memories connect. So for example, we cleaned out the home of an elderly couple. They were in their 80s and they were moving to an assisted living center, and they had been collecting magazines for 25 years. So for 25 years, they had Highlights magazines, they had Good Housekeeping magazines, they had Better Homes and Garden magazines, they had Reader's Digest magazines, just lots of magazines that to them were important and meaningful and whatever. They had taken these magazines and they had stacked them inside their shed out behind their house. And now the doors had been opened, to come in and get tools and whatever. And there's a lot of humidity in the air, and all the pages of the magazines had stuck together. So there was never any opening and rereading them again, okay? They were kind of glued together, and the magazine covers were stuck together. And now little bugs had climbed in there and made nests, and there were spider webs, and some mice had, come in from the great outdoors, and they'd chewed up the corners of them. And so these magazines were nothing but a bunch of junk to all of us that were on the outside looking in. But to the people that owned the magazines, this was 25 years of fun reading and memories and going to the mailbox and waiting for the next magazine to come. So what we did is this. We asked them, hey, listen, we have a lot of magazines that are out in the shed, and we know that they're glued together and they've been chewed apart by mice, and the weather has attacked them and they're glued and stuck together. Is it okay with you if we remove those so that we're not taking those to the new property? And they said, yes, if we can't read them anymore, that's fine. So we got permission, a blanket overall permission for the magazines. But if we'd taken them out there and said, which of these magazines do you want us to keep? They would have tried to keep them all, right? Because they're emotionally attached to the different brands and the different stories and the things that are there. And the fact that they've hung on to them this long, they have an investment in keeping them because they've invested in keeping them this long. So a blanket permission to get rid of those. Now they had music. Okay, well, the music itself is really old-fashioned. They had 45 LPs, the vinyl records. They had 8 tracks, they had cassettes, they had CDs, they had DVDs. And now everyone with Alexa, you say, Alexa, play me a song, and boom, it just plays you a song. We're never going to need those again. So we asked for blanket permissions. Can we get rid of the old music that no longer, we don't have the players for those anymore? And they said, yeah, that's fine. So they gave us a blanket permission without looking at each one of those albums. Because if we brought them the album and said, hey, can we get rid of this Ed Ames tape? What happens is they start playing Ed Ames in their head, and they start singing along with the songs, and they're like, oh yeah, that reminds me of, and it takes them back to a particular memory. So what you want to do is connect with them, with their stuff, but at one level removed. We want to make it a general music. We want to make it a general blanket of magazines. Okay, we don't want to get specific and say, can I just throw out the Reader's Digest? Because then they start thinking about what the Reader's Digest meant to them. We don't want to get specific on the music. We don't want to get specific on the bedding. We don't want to get specific on the clothing. We don't want to get specific on any of these things, because what I hear you say in this particular email is your mother is losing her cognitive functions. So within a couple of months or a couple of years, you're going to be making all of the decisions for her. And so right now, with her permission and blanket permissions, it allows us to remove these at a level where it's okay to get rid of them. And I want to do it so gently that she doesn't ever feel like she's lost all of her stuff. Now, I know with this elderly couple that were in their 80s, they were so attached to their stuff. So what we did is we brought enough of their things with them that it filled up their garage at this assisted living center. They were given a little garage space that was like a little storage unit. We filled it up and it was packed full. There were still, it was a five bedroom home that we were moving from to this one small space. And so we had all of the stacks of all of the things, and they were at the property when we were moving the things over. And then we put them all in different trucks and carloads. And when they went over to their place, there was a stack of stuff that went with them, and all of the other stuff disappeared. It went to the dumpster, it went to the Goodwill, it went to metal recycling plant where they recycle things like old bicycles and what have you. Everything was sent away, but when they opened the room of their one little place that they're in, it was packed full of stuff, and they felt like they had all their stuff with them. The reality is they hadn't used most of that stuff in the last 20, 25 years, and they weren't going to use it again, but we wanted to make sure that they felt like they had some stuff with them. Sure, they were never going to be able to find it again, because the stuff that even we brought with them, they probably would never use. But it was a very reduced version. And within a couple of months after they moved, it was very sad, but within a couple of months, both of the parents passed away. And in their passing, the family was then dealt with this one room of stuff that they then split up between the children. And it wasn't their whole 5-bedroom house and their garage and their sheds and their storage units and all that stuff. So we were actually able to help them with all of that before the time came when then there was lots of bickering and sadness and family fights. And then the kids feeling like they had to save the magazines because the parents had saved them for 25 years, right? The kids grew up in an environment where that was part of their norm. And so we don't want the next generation feeling like they have to hang on to that norm, because that is not the norm, right? That was the parents' norm. That's not the children's norm. So it's a very sensitive subject, and I want you to think of it in terms of if I was one step removed. And if you can't be one step removed, that's why we hire a third party, like a professional organizer or a house cleaner, to come in and help you make those decisions. And like I say, the blanket permissions, and don't get them involved, and don't let them see the music, and don't let them see the magazines and all that stuff, because that takes them back to the moment, and then they get really frustrated because, like I say, they're hanging on to everything they've got for a little bit more cognitive reasoning and participation in their own life. Alrighty, I'm so sad that you're going through this situation. I think eventually we're all going to go through it with our parents, and eventually we'll all go through it with ourselves and our children. So, tough stuff. I hope this helps. If it does, please pass it on to a friend. If we've earned your subscription, please subscribe. And until we meet again, leave the world a cleaner place than when you found it.